Get way better weather updates anytime with the WWAY Storm Track 3 mobile app. Now, here's Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson with your Storm Track 3 forecast. First,
starting to cool down outside, although not nearly as quickly as what we enjoyed last night if you like cold weather moving in this time of year, and certainly not as cold as we've seen north and west of our area. Even now, snow showers still pushing through Minneapolis, and just look at all the snowfall reports over the past 24 hours. Thankfully, we won't be seeing snow in southeastern North Carolina, but we still may be dealing with some effects from the trailing cold front later in the week. Up in a few minutes, we'll talk about any chance of precipitation around here for Thursday evening and talk about temperature changes for the weekend. WWAY News Channel 3 at 11 starts right now.
live, local, interactive, and in high definition. This is WWAY News Channel 3 at 11.
Now on WWAY at 11, election night is over and your award-winning political news team breaks down all the big races. Thanks for joining us tonight for your News at 11. I'm Mackenzie Henderson.
And I'm Chris Phillips. The polls closed at 7:30 this evening. The votes are in.
There were 88 offices up for grabs tonight, but only 37 were contested. There are also 4 referenda on the ballots. WWAY's award-winning political team has your results. It is your voice, your vote. Wilmington City Council will look the same for the next 2 years as it has for the last 2 years. Incumbents Kevin O'Grady, Charlie Rivenbark, and Earl Sheridan were all close at the top, keeping their 3 seats. Skip Watkins, the only declared Republican in this nonpartisan race, finished about 400 votes behind. Now, the other challengers, Derek Bickle, finished with 9%, and former New Hanover County Manager Felix Cooper got 5%. And Sheridan and Watkins were neck and neck all night, and in the end, there was less than 2% between the two. Again, the incumbent, Sheridan, won, and he says it's because voters are happy. But Watkins says it was a close race because voters want change.
I think this is a group that has worked well together, and I think we can continue to work well together and try to do some things to improve things for our city.
It was such a close race. I mean, it came down to just a couple of hundred votes, 300 or 400 votes at the end. I think it was a movement that there was a recognition of change. Obviously, there wasn't enough voters that wanted change.
In his next term, Sheridan says he wants to continue to fight violence in Wilmington. And meanwhile, Watkins says he will work on his next campaign for city council and be back in 2015.
Now to Carolina Beach, where Bob Lewis is looking to win a full term as mayor. He was appointed to the job after less than a year ago, that is, after Ray Rothrock resigned. The unofficial tally tonight, Lewis trails Dan Wilcox by 7 votes. This one will come down to the official canvas and maybe a recount. In the town council race, Leanne Pierce and Gary Deach were the 2 top vote getters. They beat out incumbents Tom Bridges and Jody Smith, appointed last year after Rothrock and Councilman Lonnie Leash resigned. Lonnie Lashley, that is. WWAY's Brandon Taylor has a reaction from Pleasure Island.
Carolina Beach will have a familiar face returning to town council as this beach community plans for the future. Dozens of people waited outside of the Carolina Beach Recreation Center to learn the results of this highly anticipated election.
I feel great. We ran a good campaign. We had a lot of good community support. Obviously, it's a very close race.
Dan Wilcox is the projected winner in the Carolina Beach mayoral race, but the numbers could still fluctuate. Mayor Bob Lewis says issues that plagued the town over the past few months probably played a role in this year's election.
Yeah, I think most of the controversy was made up. This is people trying to make up something because we've been so successful. The town's been doing so well.
Longtime resident Leanne Pierce was elected to town council and says she is looking forward to getting to work for her community.
My vision for Carolina Beach is the same as it's always been, for us to all be friends and neighbors and work together and have Carolina Beach be a family-friendly town.
Gary Deach was also elected Tuesday night to town council and says the residents spoke loud and clear.
I think there was a question in most residents' mind about the experience level on council. I have sat on council for 8 years, and so I think that was one thing.
Residents here tonight say now that the election is over, they will work together to make Carolina Beach better than ever. In Carolina Beach, Brandon Taylor, WWAY News Channel 3.
And over in Wrightsville Beach, the Board of Aldermen will have 2 new members. Hank Miller III and Lisa Weeks win the open seats. They beat out incumbent Bill Sisson and Andy Hall. The town has a new mayor as well, as Bill Blair ran unopposed to succeed David Signotti.
In Burgaw, there will be a new mayor for the first time in about a decade. Pete Cowan was seeking his 3rd full term as mayor, but Eugene Mulligan wins the election tonight 55 to 45%. In Leland, one incumbent holds onto a seat, another loses hers. Pat Battleman won a 2nd term tonight, leading the way with more than 1,000 votes. Newcomer Bob Corriston wins the other seat, currently held by Martha Curry, who finished 3rd ahead of Grace Beasley. And down in Oak Island, Betty Wallace gets 50% of the vote to win a 2nd term as mayor. Challenger Scott Coe was just 53 votes behind her, a very close one. And former Brunswick County Commissioner Charles Warren got only 57 votes. That's about 3%.
Now we are joined now by WWAY political editor Kevin Wizzardo. Kevin, let's start with Wilmington City Council. It was very close, but all 3 incumbents won. Are you surprised?
Yes and no. I really thought Skip Watkins had a chance, if only because he told people he was the only Republican running, and that could have helped, especially after the ballpark vote last year. People remember 70 to 30% folks voted against the ballpark. Thought that might become an albatross for at least one of the incumbents. That did not happen. On the other hand, there was less than 13% turnout in New Hanover County, so the establishment kind of holds on. So it'll be interesting to see if anything different now happens, if they get a message at all.
It was really interesting to watch his reaction because as those results came up, it was back and forth between him and Sheridan, and I think he was pretty disappointed by the
I'd say so. He was really hoping, he was really confident about it and really excited about the opportunity.
So opposite in Carolina Beach, all the incumbents are currently on the losing side.
Yeah, and that kind of is a big divide down in Carolina Beach. You may remember about a year ago, the mayor and one of the council members quit over them forcing out, the other members forcing out the town manager. So these are all kind of replacements. Bob Lewis was on the council and got promoted to mayor, but then the 2 that came in, they're on the outside looking in now. So really a shift in dynamics.
Seems like a little more derision. I think Carolina Beach needs to come together and get some people in for a few terms, get things solidified. We'll see if that happens. A little surprised, Charles Warren, just on name recognition alone, did you think he'd get more votes?
No,
Really?
I think we can kind of say that Charles Warren's political career is done, at least in Brunswick County. He was a Republican. That's how he won election to the county commission several years ago. Now he's a Democrat after all the shenanigans that went on with him and the members of the county commission. So he tried. He didn't really campaign very hard.
I think he'll run again. He's a trooper. And Felix Cooper, I got to say, didn't expect him to win, but then neither did he. He said things during the campaign like he didn't think he'd win. He'd only get 2 or 3 votes.
He got 5%.
And he wants to spend time in his man cave. I like a guy like that.
Yeah,
so
I think
I support Felix.
He was a fun candidate and, just somebody out there to get in the race. And, hey, he got 5%. He said he'd be live with 1 or 2.
Yeah, so a few elections may come down to being decided a little bit further, and some are settled for now.
A lot will come down to the canvass and maybe even recounts Carolina Beach. Another one, a race that a lot of people haven't talked about, is Boiling Spring Lakes, where Craig Castor beat Charlie Carroll. That's a lot like Carolina Beach, maybe even worse with the divisions there. Charlie Carroll was very close to Richard White, the outgoing mayor, so this signals an end of that kind of leadership. He was a council member, so he loses a seat on the council to run for mayor. So that'll change things up a great deal in Boiling Spring Lakes.
Overall, any big surprises for you?
I don't think so. I think what's disappointing is the turnout. Again, less than 13% in New Hanover County, less than 19% in Brunswick County. Unfortunately, that's what you get with municipal elections. I mean, we said before, 37 of 88 races were contested. That's not a whole lot.
Small local election, but if you don't vote, you can't complain.
That's right.
So there you go, out of that. Kevin Wizzardo, thank you very much. A candidate for Fair Bluff Town Commissioner died of an apparent heart attack today. Mayor Randy Britt says Mike Hammond was at the polls when he started having problems. Britt says Hammond went home, then an ambulance took him to the hospital in Whiteville. Britt says Hammond apparently had a heart attack on the way to the hospital. He died.
And now Mike Hammond finished 4th in today's race for 3 town council seats behind Clarice Faison, F. Lester Drew, and current Mayor Sproul Randy Britt. And Britt will be succeeded by Mike Hammond's brother Billy Hammond, who beat Judith Hayes Enzer by 12 points.
Fair Bluff, one of 3 Columbus County towns where voters were asked to decide whether restaurants should be allowed to sell liquor. That referendum passed 55% to 45% in Fair Bluff. It also passed in Chadbourne 53% to 47%, but in Tabor City, the vote was evenly split. 133 people vote for and 133 people voted against serving alcohol in restaurants there.
Well, we have all the election results on our website, so go to WWAYTV3.com to check out any of the races. Meanwhile, it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel in the center of a fierce debate. Hear why parents, teachers, and students are talking about the book, The Color Purple.
And in sports, it was a landslide decision of the season opener for the Lady Sea Devils.